Thank our industry partners here today with our educators in schools, with Williamsburg High School, NYIT, LaGuardia, Engineering Tomorrow, and reinforcing ACE Mentor Program in Greater New York with John and Lauren here. I'm on the board, so I'm really a huge proponent for mentoring. And it goes beyond just students. Educators need to also follow up with professionals to look at future education as well as what's currently happening. So looking forward to the conversations and the partnerships, but I'm looking forward and hopeful this year. We've all had our challenges, but I think that we could look beyond that, and there is a tunnel at the end of this, and that we are going to get out of it. So I'm hopeful, and welcome again. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Mindy. Next, we're going to hear from Emily. Emily, are you on the line with us?
I am here, Gab.
Great, go for it. Emily, I missed you. I haven't seen you in a long time. I remember the days I used to
we all haven't seen anybody in a while. Hi, everyone. So my name is Emily Wilson. I am the Work-Based Learning Coordinator at Williamsburg High School for Architecture and Design. Gab had reached out to me a little while ago to share a little bit about our school with all of you. If you were on the call, the first meeting that we had, I think, was in November, right, Gab? I don't remember. He mentioned that Wasad was very honored. We were selected as a National Blue Ribbon School of Excellence by the Department of Education in 2020. We were the only high school in New York City to be selected this year, which was kind of exciting. And to be a CTE school is extra exciting because, you know, I think we all know the value of CTE education, and that there's a lot of things that we teach our students that beyond the book learning. And so we feel really lucky that we've been able to be recognized and be able to be giving such great opportunities to our students. I just wanted to highlight a few of the things about our school, and I think some of the things that make us a little bit unique. We are a small public high school. We are in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, right between the first two stops on the L train. We have about 600 students across our 4 grade levels, and they are all enrolled in our CTE program in architectural drafting. But they're hardly limited to architecture. A lot of our students end up going into graphics or engineering. We send a number of students into the trades every year. One of the things that's really unique about us is that we are an unscreened program. We have no admission requirements whatsoever. Anybody who's interested is able to come. For the last few years, for the 150 slots for our 9th graders, we usually get about 1,400 applications through the high school admissions process, which is great. And we have, I might be wrong. I should have double checked with the guidance counselor. I think we're at like a 97 or 98% graduation rate these days. That's just something that we're really proud of. We've been doing a lot of our open houses virtually for the 8th graders recently. So we've been talking about all of this. As the work-based learning coordinator, obviously my job is to help connect students to these opportunities. And I'm really lucky that some of our partners are actually on the call today. I mean, we're going to hear a little bit from ACE later on, which has been, I mean, we've had students participating in ACE 15 years, maybe. I mean, I think as long as I can remember. The school opened in 2004, and then in 2009 is when we started our process into becoming CTE. And we got our initial CTE approval from the state in 2012. So we're actually coming up on our second reapproval, which is, of course, a little stressful, those of you who've been through it. But ACE has been a great program, especially for our 9th graders, to let them start to dip their toes in and really start to investigate some of these options. We are very fortunate. We've been really involved with CTE ISP, which is here, which has helped us expand our internship offerings. And we also have been, we were one of the initial pilot schools for the school-based SYEP, which has also helped us increase those opportunities. I saw one of our partners from the Department of Buildings is here. The Department of Buildings has been great at giving students both internship opportunities, but then other opportunities as well. They have youth advisory councils on sustainability that our students have done. And we've been doing projects with them about Black History Month for at least the last 4 or 5 years. The other thing that I want to highlight really quick, and I saw somebody who dropped our website in the chat, and there's a lot of information about our school on the website for those of you who are interested. One of our recent programs that I think is just really unique is we got connected to the town of Lake Como in New Jersey, which is a little, it's not a beach town, but it's not too far from the beach. And they have a lake. And unfortunately, after Hurricane Sandy, it got very polluted and there was a lot of damage from flooding and things like that. And we've had students working with the Lake Como Environmental Commission to come up with a new waterfront plan for the last few years. And some students have been doing it the whole time. Some of the others have cycled through if they've graduated and whatever. But the students have been involved. They've been presenting to the people in Lake Como. And my understanding is that a lot of their plans, a lot of their ideas are going to be coming to fruition. And I think that's a really special project for, 16-year-old kids to be able to be involved in. So we just have a lot of great opportunities for our students. We're always looking for more. If you have things that you think our students would be able to help you with or work on, or you want to meet some of our students, there's a lot of spotlights of them on the website as well. But we are really happy to be part of this and to continue to have these opportunities for our students. So I hope that's what you were looking for, Gab, when you asked me to talk. I wasn't really sure what you wanted me to say, but
fantastic. Thank you.
Great opportunity with the DOE through all of these things.
Thank you, Emily. It's been a while since we highlighted your school, so I really appreciate you taking.
And Gab is right. I knew Gav. I've known Gav what 7-8 years probably, long before he joined the DOE side of the thing. So he's been a great help to our school over the years too.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Emily. All right, next we're going to hear from Ms. Cheryl Bradley. Cheryl, are you with us? I saw you were messaging me earlier. I've enabled screen sharing capabilities. So Cheryl Bradley, she's from the New York Institute of Technology. And I know lots of us have questions about post-secondary pathways. A lot of our kids, they're wondering what do they do after 12th grade? So NYIT may be a great option for them. So Cheryl, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. I am going to start out with a brief presentation so everyone can kind of get a little acclimated with New York Tech, also known as New York Institute of Technology. So just give me a second. Let me get the presentation going, and I'll leave a few minutes at the end if anyone has any specific questions. Okay. So I guess everyone can kind of see my screen. So welcome. Let me just get in presentation mode. Sorry about that. Just welcome. I'm just going to share a little bit with you about New York Tech. Of course, we have this great video. So here we go. Of course.
College, it's all about heritage, culture, tradition. And sure, it's all quite elegant and noble, but it's a bit too uptight for us. We don't have an elite crest or secret society. As for a Latin slogan, quod su non realiter semisa. Because for us, we're less about flaunting history and more about reinventing the future. Both for the world and more importantly, for people like you. Self-starters, doers, makers, healers, innovators. Since we started, we've been less concerned with prestige and more into, well, letting you do your thing. Which is how the startups start and the experiments lead to a cure. When the blueprints turn into green cities and the world's problems become challenges you'll solve. Seriously though, we've gotten really good at making people great. And so we define ourselves not by who we are, but who we can help you become. Because our legacy is making yours.
Awesome, guys. So New York Tech, I'm not sure how familiar you are with us, but we do have two campuses. We're one school with two campuses. We have a New York City campus, and we also have a campus in Long Island and Old Westbury. So these are just some facts and statistics about New York Tech. So we're a medium-sized school. I wouldn't say we're really small. We're definitely not large. Our student to teacher ratio is about 12 to 1. So basically, you know, our students get a lot of kind of one-on-one with the faculty members, and it's really helpful considering most of our programs are hands-on. Where, as you can see, one of the most diverse student bodies, we have one of the most diverse student bodies, and a safe college and one of the top 50 regional universities. We have 6 schools with 90+ programs. So of course, our College of Engineering and Computing Science, along with our School of Architecture and Design, are some of the schools that your students will be able to apply for and get accepted into. So our facilities, state of the art in every department, not just our architecture and design, but also even in our business and our healthcare areas. We have a 3D motion capture lab, fab labs, all our mechanical CAD and CAM labs, nano fabrication facilities. So we try to stay on top of the latest technology as much as possible. Now, I'm definitely not the person to ask about all the technology. That's not my thing. But we try to be on top of what's going on. But the programs that we have been working with you guys on are our engineering and architecture programs, right? I think that's what we're covering today. So our mechanical engineering program, we offer mechanical engineering with an aerospace concentration, in addition to our new construction engineering program and an engineering management program. And also our architectural technology program and our architecture, which is the Bachelor of Architecture program. So these are the programs that we are specifically working with the DOE on in regard to the CTE schools being able to transfer some of their certifications and get credit for it. So just in terms of the student requirements, the admissions requirements, I mean, we're pretty straightforward, I think, in terms of admission. We typically look for about an 80 average, 3 years of math for engineering type programs, and we are a test optional school. We just went test optional last year. So if you have students that want to submit SAT scores, they're more than welcome. Absolutely can do that. Same criteria for architecture, except for the Bachelor of Architecture, where we do require a portfolio for that program. Basically, your students would just have to submit their application. If they have a fee waiver code or need one, they can always reach out to us. General Common App is pretty much what high school students are going to use when they're ready to apply to us. And once we have all of their documentation for their application, we'll review them. If they have any additional credits, and in this case, maybe some of your students are also taking AP courses, they're more than welcome to send that in addition to their certifications once they've completed their program. So I'm going to stop right there, stop the share. And I also wanted to share one other thing with you in terms of our agreement. We are diligently working. It has not quite been finalized just yet, but we are halfway there. Our agreement, articulation agreement, that is not the screen I wanted to share. Sorry. I wanted to share another screen that shows you what some of the credits, what that's going to look like for our students coming in. Okay, this is it. I just pulled it out. So this is just an example for students that are coming out of a CTE program. They have these certifications. We're able to give them credit towards their mechanical engineering degrees and also their architecture degrees. So as you can see here, the Autodesk certified, you're probably way more familiar with these certifications, but this is kind of what we're working towards. And so far, it seems to be a good match. Our faculty have already, kind of signed off on it. So that's kind of where we are. And if anyone has any questions, happy to answer.
Cheryl, do you have any idea when the articulation might be finished?
Oh, we're shooting for sometime this month, preferably by the end of the month. The first one, this one, the engineering architecture one is actually, it's finished for the most part. We've got signatures, we're reviewing legal, so it's a process. So nothing goes out the door until it's been thoroughly vetted.
Okay, great.
But we're definitely shooting for the end of this month.
Yeah, we would love to see that because a number of our CTE programs, they are trying to either apply for approval or reapproval with the state. So that articulation agreement is something essential that they would need. So, anything that you can do to help us out to kind of push that process forward, we would be very, very grateful because you're doing great work with this. This is something that our kids need, our schools need. So thank you so much for working on this for us.
Yeah, we're happy to do it. Having fun, working on it and figuring out different programs and what matches with what. So it's actually been pretty interesting.
Great. All right, so unless there are any other questions, I'm gonna keep it moving. Next, we have another doctor with us who I feel very, very humbled to read his biography. He's a renowned speaker internationally, Dr. Eve. He's from LaGuardia Community College. And I know a lot of schools have been wondering, wait a second, I didn't even know LaGuardia offers programs that our kids can get into that aligns with our programming. So we're gonna hear from him today to talk about his programs in his college. Dr. Eve?
Thank you so much for the introduction. So that's a very nice of you. So let me share my screen because I want to share my presentation with you. Okay, all right. So my name is Dr. Evan Gabonziza. I'm the director of the engineering program at LaGuardia Community College. We are very humbled to be invited to this committee meeting because we realized it was a good opportunity for not only for our programs, but for the high school, the technical high school, to find a way to collaborate. Because as you see right now, all the technical schools, if we can try to create a path for the high school students where they can get credit as they join the college, that would be a great idea. So in my presentation today, I'll just first give you an overview of our LaGuardia in our engineering program. I will talk about articulation agreement. Now we are working between our engineering program with the engineering and architecture programs. And towards the end, I'll also talk about the admission process. And I will leave some time for some questions if you may have some questions. LaGuardia is one of the colleges that are part of the State University of New York and is one of the best. Actually, last month, we were recognized as the best engineering program in CUNY that offer science degrees. So we have a very good engineering program where we have to collaborate with other schools. I'll go into the details. So our program is made of two main programs. We have an engineering science program where a student graduates with an associate in science degree, and we transfer to four-year school to get their bachelor's degree. We also have an energy technology program where a student, upon graduation, will receive an associate in applied science, and then they join the workforce afterwards. Our engineering science program is a dual joint program with City College of New York, and it consists of 4 tracks. We have civil engineering, electrical engineering, environmental engineering, and mechanical engineering. So after completing the associate in science at LaGuardia, it's a joint program with City College, majority of our students, they do travel to City College to complete their bachelor degree. So we have about 90 to 95% students who travel to City College. Why? Because since we have an articulation, as long as you graduate from LaGuardia and you fulfill the transfer requirement, you are assured the spot at City College. It doesn't matter how competitive the program is. We have a very competitive program. Just to give you an idea, in our engineering program, a grade below a C is not a passing grade. So all the classes, in order to pass a class, you have to have a grade of C and above. And the GPA should be above 2.7. So we try to make it competitive for our students and to make sure that once they graduate, they can transfer easily to other schools. Our program, our engineering science program started in 2005. And since then, we've had association agreement with so many other schools. We have with the SUNY, Stony Brook, with NYTech, with Vaughan College. And for the last couple of years, we are working with the two schools. There is Cornell, which is an Ivy school in New York State. So for the last 2 years, we've had students who travel to Cornell because not only our students, they graduate in LaGuardia, but also try to expose them to extracurricular activities. So which means we make sure that they do researches, they attend conferences, they do publications. That way we can prepare them as they're about to transfer. So 3 years ago, we had like 2 students who applied to Cornell, and Cornell was impressed with the student. Then they reached out to us to see if there's way we can collaborate. So we are trying to come up with an application with the Cornell in a way that our high achieving student can get a chance to join those Ivy schools. So currently, our science program, we have about 700 students. The other program that we have, which is a technology program, where students, upon graduation, they join the workforce, is an energy technology program. We started the program in 2015, and then we have 2 tracks. We have electrical technology, and then we have mechanical technology. And the program, the main high school we collaborated with at the beginning was Energy Tech High School. And the way we started the program, it was an idea from 2 industry partners. They were from ConEd and National Grid. What was the reasoning behind it was ConEd and National Grid, they come up with the idea they are looking at a graduate student who can join the workforce with the required training that you are looking for. So as Dr. H mentioned at the beginning, one of the skills that they were lacking was public speaking or clear communication, which is crucial because sometimes our students, even though they're doing engineering, they have a tendency to feel like if they can solve questions, they can manufacture things, they don't have to talk. But rather that's the opposite. If you are a designer, you come up with a great idea. If you cannot articulate, if you cannot explain to people what you've done, it's going to be really hard to sell your idea. So as you know, engineering technology is about communication, teamwork. So we sat together, we look at what they are looking for, and then we tailor these 2 programs based on what industries we're looking for. So the program has been doing very well so far. We have about 230 students in the programs, and they get internship in ConEd, National Grid, and other companies. And if any of the students in your technology program or architecture program will try to join our program, I'm going to talk about what we're trying to do on that end. So one good news that I have about, and then I was excited to join this committee, was to talk to you about an education agreement we are trying to develop with engineering in the architecture program in New York City. So for the last couple of months, I've been working with Jessica Kemper, who is the Director of Industry Engagement, and we're trying to draft an application that we can use to give credit to high school students who try to join LaGuardia. So far, we have about 26 to 28 high school that we are trying to look at their curricula to see how we can give them credit. What we do is we go through their curricula, look at the classes they offer to their students, just to see if we can give them credit. So I can tell you that the good news is right now, so far where we are, because we are in the evaluation process, it looks like most of the schools that have established curricula, students can get about 6 to 8 credits, which is a good thing. If you, especially, I'm talking about technical credit. So if you can get 8 credit while in high school, that's going to be a very good step as you join the college. It means it will cut, let's say, it may cut 1 semester if you take additional classes. So as we finalize this articulation agreement, of course, maybe I will come back or Jessica can talk to you in the details about what we're going to achieve. But we are looking forward to this, and then it looks like it's going to be very promising, especially for the students who want to join the college. Because as you see now, if you finish high school, if you finish high school and join the college, if you can get credit for what you've done in high school, there's nothing better than that. All right, so we're trying to work on that. And then probably we're trying to look at probably towards the end of this semester to see if we can finalize the agreement. But of course, it has to go to the bureaucracy, but hopefully we can go through that. Lastly, I want to talk just about the admission process. Why? Because people may ask themselves, what do I have to do to be admitted in the program? So our application process is kind of straightforward. It's normally the CUNY have a central application process. So everybody will apply through the CUNY Central, and then in regard to the supporting documents, they send the supporting document to the college they apply to. So let's say students want to join LaGuardia, they apply through the CUNY Central and choose LaGuardia as the college you want to join. And then upon acceptance, then they will send the supporting document to LaGuardia. And after they applied, and then we try to evaluate their credit. So once we put the articulation agreement in place, it accelerates the credit evaluation, because if we know what school they're coming from, and then we have an articulation agreement, so that credit evaluation process will be straightforward, because we have an agreement that will say, if you come, let's say from X high school, you will get this much credit in return. So we're trying to do so, and I hope, and I'm sure we're trying to come up with a good articulation that will be beneficial to both the high schools and our program as well. All right. And lastly, what we do, we have like a placement exam, but those placement exams most likely about English and math literacy. So we try to give an exam to see what math level they have. But right now, as I spoke about the articulation agreement, we are focusing now on technical classes. But if we can extend that either to math and in English classes, that will be also another asset, which means we can skip those placement exams. So if we are sure, if we can look at, say, the English program that they offer at the high school, or they say some math class that they took, we can try to look into that and also try to expand the agreement. That way, you don't have to take a placement exam. All right. So we are looking forward to the collaboration in the future. It looks bright, and hopefully, we can give more high school students an opportunity to join the college and then benefit from and the transfer some of their credit. So that will be the end of our presentation. I thank for your attention. If you have any question, I will be happy to answer the questions.
All right, any questions at all? Again, I want to give a big shout out to Jessica Kemper, who's been spearheading some of these articulations. And for those of you who don't know, getting articulation agreements together is very, very arduous work. It's something where we wish we could just create something overnight and then give it to our schools, but there's a lot of different logistics, a lot of different meticulous work that goes into it. So thank you guys so much for your collaboration and trying to put this articulation together. Want to welcome Ismail Ocasio, who I haven't seen in a while. And for anybody who's been bugging me, where's Ismail? He's on the call, so stop bothering me. He's there. You can send your messages to him right now while he's still around. All right, next up, I want to welcome Tim, Monica, Megan. I don't know if all three of them, I see Monica, I saw Tim. I don't know if, oh, there she is. All right, so these individuals, I find them to be very, very altruistic. They are from a nonprofit known as Engineering Tomorrow, and I would be remiss if I did not allow them an opportunity to highlight their organization. I think the resources that they have to give is something that many of our teachers would find beneficial. I know so far, at least a couple of our CTE schools have been visiting their site. I do know that Queens Tech has ordered their kits already, and I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Tell us about your organization and how we can work together, because we have a number of different schools on the call. They may not have heard about you before, and I think that they'll be pleasantly surprised with the information that you have to share today. So take it away.
Well, Gav, thank you for that gracious introduction and for the time for you and everybody on the Zoom call is giving us. Can I start off by saying to you that prior to taking this job as the executive director, I served for 11 years as the Catholic school superintendent in New York City. And I'll be candid with you. If I were in Gav's shoes and I was just a vendor trying to work my way into your agenda, I would have and have simply said no. This isn't the forum for it. But the most important thing I could start off by saying is we're not a vendor. Everything we're going to talk about today is free, no cost to the school, no cost to the student. And because it's free, and also because we've converted to be virtual this year, if I can brag for a second, in 4 straight months, we're now in 19 different states. So Engineering Tomorrow, as Gav alluded to, it's a nonprofit. One of the reasons we're free, folks, is we're funded by the largest private equity firm in the world when it comes to engineering and infrastructure projects. And they're based in New York, Global Infrastructure Partners. So we're blessed to have money not an issue. Everything we do is free in that way. So this is our mission. We want to build a larger pipeline of engineers for our country. I don't have to go into the stats. You know, there's a dearth of engineers and it's going to be exacerbated over the years. We've intentionally decided, let's start with high school students. And what we want to do with high school students is not replace any coursework that you're doing, but we would like to have 5 or 6 quality touch points with your students during their high school career, where 1, we can broaden their understanding of engineering. 2, we can talk about the array of opportunities that are going to be out there when they hit the workforce. And 3, get them to get their hands dirty in labs to see exactly what engineers do. Now, prior to the pandemic, we would actually take your students and we'd bring them to one of 2 labs that we have in the city, but we also service Newark and Washington, D.C. And when they came to our labs, the teacher would choose any one of 15 different engineering experiences. Engineers, professional engineers would be in the labs, complemented by college students currently majoring in engineering. And we'd spend the entire day rubbing shoulders with them and having them learn that whole experience. If you can sense, and I hope you do, some enthusiasm in my voice, it's because of where we're at right now. When the pandemic hit, it became, in a very strange way, a blessing. This past summer, we brought engineers, high school teachers, STEM high school teachers, and college kids together. We put them on payroll and we said, take everything we've been doing and convert it to be virtual. And this is where we landed. We have 10 virtual labs that now we can offer teachers. And this is why we've gone so quickly into 19 states. When we talk to a teacher, one of the first questions we're going to ask them is, how many students do you need to be served? How many can we serve? And there is no ceiling. And when we learn that number, and can I just say 100 for the sake of this conversation, what we do is in our distribution center in the Bronx, every one of your students gets a box shipped to them in the mail in this box. And in it are the supplies that they will need for 10 labs, so that no student who's at home is going to be disadvantaged because they could not conduct a lab because they don't have the supplies. When this arrives at their home and you have decided what lab you would like to choose, and we're sharing with you, Monica and Megan, on the lower left-hand corner, the 10 virtual labs. I'll get to a little more detail about that in a minute. But once you select the lab, and here's another important piece, once you select the time that best works for you, we will arrange to have a virtual Zoom with your students. And at that introductory Zoom, a professional engineer is on the line for an hour. Now we can truncate that and customize it based on your availability, but we would love an hour. The engineer, as I said a minute ago, is going to engage your students about just engineering in general. I mean, most students don't realize the toothpaste they used, right? Chemical engineer had a fingerprint on that. So we broaden their understanding. We talk to them about the array of opportunities, and then we will delve into whatever lab you chose. So we talk about that industry, and we make sure that before the students leave that Zoom, they're going to have a comprehensive understanding of what is expected of them with the lab that we want them to do. If it's bridges, they're going to understand all the materials in that box that align with bridges, what we would like them to do in constructing a bridge, how we want them to test their bridge. They can be at home. These students, in theory, can be in your classroom, or it could be a bifurcation. It doesn't matter. They have the materials, and we're doing it by Zoom. But I'm alluding to the Zoom with the engineer. This is the first of 3 Zooms that we would like to have. The introduction with the engineer, The second Zoom we would like to have later that week is when we're going to bring college students in, students majoring in engineering. We love the interaction that occurs between your students and the college students. They're going to talk about college, how they navigated going from high school to college. And then they're going to give a dose of reality to the students that when you're an engineering major in college, the bar set a little bit higher in terms of work ethic and expectations. It's important for the students to hear that. But we would like to come back at the conclusion of the week and have a third Zoom with your students. At this point, another professional engineer is going to engage them. We will culminate that activity. And again, there's rich interaction that occurs at that last one because students are all too eager to show on the screen what they created. And the engineer has the opportunity to evaluate it, if you will. Everything I just described in those 3 Zooms, we can replicate 10 times with the labs that we're showing on the screen here. The other thing that I think makes this such a terrific experience for the students, not only is it free, it's delivered by professional engineers, it's on your timeline, but the engineers that we have touching base with your students are of the highest quality. Let me brag just for a second. You see phototherapy. The engineer that created that is the one that had Grover's disease, a skin disease. And he himself developed the cure for that and converted that experience into a phototherapy lab. When you see water treatment, the engineer that created that is the one that went to Africa and solved sanitation problems for some of the poorest poverty-stricken areas in Africa. When you see 3D printing, we'll work with your students. They will virtually create a product on 3D printing. They'll mail it to us at our distribution center in the Bronx, where we have 12 3D printers. We will actually print the product that your student created and mail it back to you so that you can distribute it back to the students. Can I just remind you again, everything that we're sharing right here is free. There's absolutely no cost. So what we would like to do is we'd like to spread the word even further, and Gav, this opportunity that we're having right now is just fantastic, so that teachers can have a better appreciation of the resource and the partnership that we would like to have with you. And if interested and you'd like to pursue it, the website is www.engineeringtomorrow, that's one word, .org. You will see on our screen not only the flyer that's there, but you'll able to get to see a one-page registration form. You fill that out, expressing your interest, hit send, and someone like a Monica will give you a call and we'll work out the details to make sure that we can customize this for you. So Monica and Megan, if I've missed any salient points, good time to jump in before I'll wrap it up. We're
No,
good on your.
I think you touched on everything, Tim, and the flyer really that Monica pulled up really articulates the key points of the program. And Monica put the registration form in the chat. So if you're interested, just fill that out to the best of your knowledge about, how many kits you want and what dates you want. And you will get a phone call back from an Engineering Tomorrow staff member to finalize details. So I encourage you, if you're interested, fill out the form, and then we'll complete the process via a one-on-one phone call.
Yeah, I get this all the time, folks. So what there's got to be a catch, and there isn't. There's no quid pro quo, no hidden agenda. This is pure philanthropic work, blessed by some individuals who are able to fund all of this. So Gav, thank you. And can I just make a quick shout out? I call them colleagues, but to Sue and to Lauren and to Tricia, who represents ACE, we're familiar with them. Fantastic work they do. It's a great, great program. I don't see us as a competitor. I think we complement all of the great work they've been doing long before we got on the scene. So Lauren, it's delighted to see you on this screen too. And just a quick shout out to you. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for our partners at Engineering Tomorrow? before we move on to the next part of our agenda. And by the way, Tim, it seems like Manhattan Bridges High School is interested in your resources, and High School for Enterprise Business and Technology, affectionately known as EBT. So hopefully we can see some good collaboration there. Before I turn it over to Lauren and Trish, just a reminder in case you didn't see the slideshow at the beginning of this presentation, a couple other events, or actually at least 3 other events I wanted, especially the CTE teachers and schools on this session to be aware about. For February 23rd, which is our Construction and Sustainability Commission, I'm going to be opening up that commission so that your kids can attend them. So what I'm gonna have is some sort of a construction union info session. In my years of being with DOE, I've gotten so many questions about how does it work with, what's the difference between union and non-union? How do I get into these apprenticeships? And a lot of people, a lot of our kids, they're only aware of the particular CTE subject that they're enrolled in. So we're gonna have some of the lesser known unions present. And this is an opportunity for your kids to be able to join this webinar and ask whatever questions they need to ask. We're gonna feature Local 12 heating and insulating, Local 1 plumbers, Local 14 operating engineers, New York City District Council of Carpenters, and also Local 137 sheet metal. So these are all various construction opportunities that your kids can consider. I'm gonna have them all present during that time. We're gonna have the question and answer session, so feel free to invite your kids to that. Next, for February 24th, we're gonna have our partners at DCAS present on various opportunities within New York City government. So DCAS being the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, because again, I get a lot of requests from counselors and teachers asking, how exactly do you get into some of these civil service jobs? And civil service jobs are not just jobs in the mayor's office. There's a whole litany of career opportunities. We did something in the automotive sector just a few weeks ago, and we're gonna touch on some other sectors on the 24th. And finally, it's March 4th in the evening. I've had a number of schools ask me, what about the kids that want to get into the military? Are there STEM opportunities? Are there skilled trades opportunity within the Army? So I've asked them to do an info session in case any of your kids want to learn more about that career pathway. So all 3 events are open to your young people. And after this session is over, I'm going to be sending out reminders about how your kids and your staff can sign up for these sessions that we have in place. But without further ado, this is a very, very timely presentation that's necessary. And Lauren, thank you so much for agreeing to take over the latter part of this presentation. We all know that within the CTE world, when it comes to teaching some of these subject matter, it is especially difficult for us because we want the kids to actually be indoors in the shop classes. How exactly do you teach engineering and architecture and construction management remotely? I mean, these are not things that we are used to. So thankfully, Lauren and Trisha have put together some very, very relevant resources for us that we can tap into. So thank you, ladies, both. And I don't know if Sue is on the call, but I think she got voted as Women of the Year or something like that recently. Sue, we all are aware of your award, so we want to recognize you for that. Thanks for the partnership that you have with us. So take it away, Lauren.
Thanks, Gav, and thank you everyone who spoke so highly of ACE throughout the meeting. It makes the work easy when everyone knows about it. It's just a great program, so we're very grateful for that. Well, thank you all for staying for our presentation. We're going to be introducing our virtual resource library and how to teach architecture, engineering, and construction management remotely. My name is Lauren Fiore. I'm the program manager here at ACE. I know and I'm grateful to work with a lot of you this year to get your students involved in our program. I'm joined by my colleague, Trisha Elms-Hannafin. Trisha manages our Westchester teams, and she leads a team of students in ACE who are in Yonkers. And so she's actually used the resource library in her weekly sessions and will be showing us her students' work alongside the resources. Our contact information is there, and then this will also be uploaded to the folder that Gab shares, so don't feel you have to write anything down. Flip, please. So before we start, I do want to piggyback off what Gab said and recognize and thank the leadership of HDNY. So we have on the call John Pierce, our chairperson of the board of directors, and Sue Harris Royal, our executive director. as well as the entire board of directors, of which Mindy knows a part of, and really the entire ACE family. It takes a village to run the program, and we have so many people that have their hands in it, from our mentor side, alumni, industry partners. So it's just really great to see everyone represented on the call, as well as our schools that we're involved with, and just working together to really help the students and keep them focused and motivated on their career paths. So what is our resource library? Our resource library is a collection of resources and activities to introduce students to the design and construction industry. So this industry consists of real estate development, architecture, civil engineering, structural engineering, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineering, or MEP, and construction management. In partnership with Gav's team, we developed this virtual resource library. Like he said, we know educators are really struggling to develop resources and curriculum that allows students to be responsive and engaged remotely. And so we wanted to share what we had developed. Through this partnership, we selected HDNY alumni. And so our alumni are college students or recent graduates from college who went through ACE and they're studying those fields or graduated from studying those fields. And so they created the materials alongside a mentor advisor. The mentor advisor for these materials are really some of our best mentors in the program. And so both the students and the mentors put their heart, creativity in these resources. And as a little side note, 3 out of the 6 disciplines developed were developed by CTE high school alumni. Flip. For each discipline, the alumni created the following: a 15 to 20-minute introductory video that describes basic knowledge about that topic and the educational and professional pathways needed to enter that discipline, a hands-on activity that students could do independently and that could be administered remotely. And then we have a video of the alumni doing the activity, as well as a handout discussing the activity. We also developed a hands-on activity that students could do as a group. So now this was developed with the hopes that we would be in person last fall, but many of the group activities can be transferred to do remotely. And we also, the alumni created a video of themselves doing the activity and a handout for that as well. And we also included a 25 to 30-minute video of an HDNY alumni interviewing a board member about their career path specific to that discipline. And so the videos feature a conversation about the board member's career path, the future of the industry, and the importance of giving back and mentorship. Flip. So before we show you the resources and how to access them, we just wanted to put this disclaimer up. The design and construction field, as you all know, is very collaborative, with people coming from all different disciplines to get the projects done. So therefore, we really recommend that you introduce all 6 disciplines to your students to show them the full spectrum of this field. This is a holistic curriculum. The disciplines build on one another, and so they work together to show students how the field operates. Your school may only have a CTE program in one of those 6 fields, and so you may be inclined to only show that one. But introducing students to the entire curriculum is very important. They may be interested in this field, but not really understand the full potential and how every skill set and everyone could have a seat at the table. So introducing them to the entire spectrum could show them there's a place for them in the field. And we also recommend doing it in the order that we have presented. So real estate first, architecture, the engineerings, and then CM. As I mentioned, they build on one another, and so this order is just the most easy way to understand for the students. Flip. And now Trisha will go over the resource library and how to get there.
Okay, so I'm sharing my screen. I have a lot of resources to go through, so bear with me if something goes wrong here. But we wanted to start just by showing a classic time-lapse video, just to kind of really show what Lauren's talking about. So this is a time-lapse of Yankee Stadium. When we talk about the fact that this is a holistic curriculum, the architects have to do with what the civil engineers are doing. The civil engineers build on what the architects are doing. The construction managers need all of the disciplines involved, and the owner's the one making the decisions. So they're all incorporated as part of this. And to hammer that home, I think John Pierce, who's on this call, is our chairperson, has worked in 3 of the 6 disciplines in his career. So one major can go in a lot of different directions, and that's kind of one of the things that we're hoping to showcase here. So time lapses are always fun because they're just kind of exciting to watch nothing go to something. But now to what we're really here for, which is, okay, our virtual resource library. So this was created, as Lauren said, in conjunction with the Department of Education. And the intent here is that there are resources that are created for teachers who don't have a technical background. So at a sophomore level, a teacher could kind of plug and play this curriculum, and all of the information is there, and they could do it alongside with the students. There, in this webpage, there is a chart of activities. This is our synopsis of everything that's in these folders. So you can see each of our different disciplines. They all have an introductory video. They range from 13 minutes, but don't let structural engineering fool you. There's a lot in there, to 20 minutes. An independent activity that was meant for the virtual setting. So things that students can do from their home. There's an overview for that activity, and then there's just some information about the supplies and length of time frame for the activity. For the group activities, like Lauren said, I think 4 of them can be done virtually from home. 2 of them are really meant to be in person. And we'll talk a little bit about modifications about each of the activities as we go through them. Industry leaders interviews. We've interviewed some of our board members, and they're really good. They're really interesting. They're broken up into 3 different sections. One about what the field is, one about the current state and future state of the industry in their field, and the third part just about what a young person can do now to get there. And then we have some module takeaways. ACE is not meant to be graded. As teachers, I'm not sure how that works for you, but for now, we just have some takeaways here that if you're looking to see, did the student get it? These are kind of the 10% knowledge that we're hoping that they'll gain from each of these disciplines. And then below here, we have some tips and tricks, and I'll go through them as we go through each of the disciplines as well. So going back to the main page, the next half an hour, I will be guiding you as basically as a teacher training. So if you are not a teacher, hang in there. But for teachers who have questions, this is how I've used the curriculum with my students in ACE. I've been a mentor for 12 years, have been on numerous ACE teams. I'm sure I've had students from many of your high schools. But this year, we've been virtual with everybody else and have used these resources. So I'll also show some advice and some lessons learned from working with these modules with the students. So I'm going to start with architecture and then go back and we'll go through the whole curriculum. But for architecture, I just want to show you a little bit about what each of these resources are. So we're going to start with the overview video. This was done, well, I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey y'all, my name is Angel Ngumas and I am from Queens, New York City. I graduated high school for construction trades, engineering, and architecture in 2018. And while I was in high school, I was in Team 25 with Skidmore, Owings, and Merle for about 2 years. Currently, I am a 3rd-year architecture student at Cornell University, and I will be giving you all an introductory overview of architecture and teaching you the basics of architectural drawing and model making.
Okay, so Angel goes through in 20 minutes an overview of architecture. Architecture is not learned in 20 minutes, and that's okay. But what the college students did do is try to bring it to a level that's interesting to high school students. At one point, Angel put on a house from Minecraft, and I said, I don't know what that is. He said, it doesn't matter, everybody in high school does. It's like, okay, fine. So these modules created by college students bring it to a level of understanding. They lived through it. They were all in the ACE program, but also in conjunction with mentors who have been teaching these lessons for many years. So Angel goes through the history of architecture, some global examples, talking about sustainability. That's at the forefront of a lot of our lessons. Also, just giving more examples of things that are in New York City, things that are exciting to high school students, and then goes into the design process, talking about an idea and site surveying to moving to the different phases of design, the research, the meetings, the presentations, and finally, he culminates with design drawings and what we need to communicate our ideas. So what's in our head and what goes down on paper. So going through the different construction documents, and all of the presentations end with a career path. So what are the jobs that students could have in these different disciplines, and how do they get those jobs? So what is the college program going to look like? What is the post-college education look like? What does licensing look like? And then each of them try to end with something inspiring to get students to think a little bit more about it. And then each of the modules has that interview or that overview. And then they have an individual exercise with a video introduction from the student, from the alum. So this particular exercise, we'll take a look at it in a minute. It talks about plan section elevation drawing with kitchen materials. So Angel discusses what is a plan section elevation, and then goes into how to do the exercise for this session. So what do you need? How do you move forward through the exercise, and giving examples of what he did for it. So this particular exercise is using kitchen fruit or vegetable or item, doing the plan section elevation, and then reimagining that item. Angel reimagined it as a house with lots of little rooms. So there's also then a worksheet that goes with that. Some of the worksheets are part of the project. So each student will need to have access to the worksheet to fill it out. This one in particular, you just need a pen and paper. You wouldn't necessarily need to have a physical copy of the worksheet. But it's pretty much outlines exactly what's said in the video in a simpler kind of homework handout kind of way. So this just reiterates what we just saw in that video. And then the same is done for the group exercise. There's a video, there's an overview worksheet, and then at the end, there's an interview with a board member who's actively working in this field. We had the privilege of having Mindy do this one, so highly recommend looking into it. It's a great conversation. Okay, so back to the tips and tricks. So we're going to start with owner developer. I like to start here. I think different teams put the owner developer at different phases of the process, but I think the owner developer really sets up why we're doing this. So the individual exercise for this one starts with the concept of how do we make the maximum amount of rent? So the students are given a particular location with a ground floor space and apartments above it. In it, they have the option of using different types of first floor spaces. And then based on the decision they make for the ground floor, there are certain constraints that allow them to make more money or add more floors or add different types of apartments. And the goal of the first project is to find the option that gives the most amount of rent. So first they decide what they want on the ground floor, and then they put different types of apartments into the floor plans, and then find out how much each one costs. So here's an example of one of the students on my team. They laid out each of the different floor plans. They had decided to go, I think, with a pharmacy on the first floor. They added up the rents for the different apartment sizes accordingly. There's one minor mistake here, that this one bedroom can't actually be located, you can't actually get into this one bedroom, but that's okay. But that's the intent for this first part of this project. What I wanted to talk about for the owner exercise, and something that I think is important for all of them, is the group activity builds on this. And it builds on it in such a way that it asks you to say, okay, we made the most amount of rent we could. Now, how do we bring that into our community, and how do we think intelligently about what's around us and what does our community need? So this example is created for the Bronx Design and Construction Academy. The location here is a Google Maps image of their location. There's a parking lot right there. I recommend trying to make these activities as local as possible. If you're in far Queens, you don't know what's happening in the Bronx. You don't know what they need at this particular location. So localizing it will allow your students to really understand in their community where they are, even if they're commuting, they spend enough time around school in normal years to know what's going on. What do they need? And the purpose of a lot of these activities is really just to get them to start to look around where they are, to start to understand, if I were a developer and I walked into this neighborhood, what am I looking for? What am I looking at? And by doing that, we are hoping to kind of spark their imagination and spark some interest in this industry in a way that they didn't think about it before. So the first tip and trick is to really try to make this local, because it'll make it more personal, and that's a lot of what this is. So the group activity here could be done in person, but it can also be done virtually as an individual activity if you wanted to do that. Moving on to the architecture activities. The first one we saw is about plan, section, and elevation. Here I want to just discuss the fact that these are exercises that are meant to be kind of, like I said, plug and play. And if you know nothing, your students get a little something out of it. Hopefully they'll learn more as the years go on and if they go into college. But if you are an architecture teacher teaching this, you can definitely scale this in a different way. So each of the activities are meant to be like 30, 45 minutes. But if you have students who really want to spend the time to reimagine that tomato and all of a sudden start putting different rooms into the different atrial spaces within the tomato, you could do this for a very long time. The other thing that this particular module doesn't teach is scale. So you could take the time to go through as an introduction to scale, having this activity, and also introducing the concept of taking something that's larger and making it smaller. So some examples of how my students did this, they each did it a slightly different way. And the directions are somewhat open-ended. So as a teacher, it's up to you how strict you want to do it, or if you want to add more requirements, but it's all scalable to your needs as a teacher and your time constraints. So one student here, the first photo is a water bottle. So you can see he added the lines per the instructions. Over here, you have the double wall of the plastic bottle, and the way that he reimagined it was a water bottle volcano. The student over here who did an apple chose to be a little bit more artistic with it. After she was done with just a circle, she chose to add colors to it, which is not necessarily typical of what we see in an architectural plan, section, and elevation, but it's very lovely. So it was a way for her to use her creativity, and she reimagined an apple as a nutcracker. The student that did a coffee machine down here actually did take this concept of scale. She said that each box was 2 centimeters. She measured out her coffee machine and actually drew it to scale with graph paper. So just some examples of the ability to really manipulate this project however you choose. And that's consistent across all of these projects. So the next module that we recommend going to is to civil engineering. Civil engineering is a fun set of modules. So the introduction video introduces 7 or 8 different types of career paths that you can have as a civil engineer. And the exercises, each one chooses one of the different types of career paths. So the first individual exercise is called an egg roll. It's based on highway engineering, transportation engineering, and goes through the concept of curves as a way of managing speed and creating safe environments. And the challenge of this activity is to take an egg and roll it down a ramp at a set angle and hope the egg doesn't break. I recommend hard boiling the eggs so you can eat them at the end. But you'll see in the video, she tries different things. There's some iterations that are involved there. This is, I think, her final iteration where the egg actually succeeds, and then goes through velocity and that concept as well. For this activity, and for a lot of these activities where we're involving household materials, we're asking the students to kind of look around and use what they have. Again, we're not graded, we're just looking to create interest. So we recommend just kind of meeting the students where they are with the materials they have. So for, oh, I missed the architectural model too. Let me go back. Let me finish the egg roll, sorry. So for the students that participated, they used different materials and had different levels of success. Some of them didn't have eggs. Some of them just used golf ball or a ping pong ball. Some of them had eggs but didn't really have the right surface. The lower left corner here, the box kind of bent. It's okay. This one in this corner here, I don't really know how they pushed up the table to create a ramp without losing everything that was under the table, but they got the concept. And that's really kind of what we're hoping for, is just to get students to have some hands-on presence in a way that's not always possible when you're on a virtual environment. Going back to architecture, it does use a similar concept of using things that you have. So this one is about reimagining site modeling. It again used a local location, but we recommend making it local to your location. So this is the school in the Bronx. And the intent is that if you were in person, each student would create a quadrant of it and you would bring it together at the end, so that each student would have a say in kind of the overall final model. And you would use materials that you find at home. So barbecue and other sauce packages, cardboard boxes, paper. In our ACE session, this was different plastic packages. It was a power plant. So it was a main building here with 2 pitched roofs and 2 chimneys up here, and an additional side building attached by 2 bridges. So it's using materials that the students have at home, and it's a nice opportunity for them to look around and think creatively. Dr. H mentioned earlier on about soft skills and communication, and that's a big part of what ACE is getting what's in here. How do you get that in front of you. And a lot of these different activities and different modules talk to the large requirement of communication in the construction industry. The civil engineering group project, again, asks you to take materials from your home, but there's definitely some opportunity for creativity here. So it's a water filter exercise where you have a plastic bottle that you cut in half, and then fill it with whatever you have to get whatever you're using out of the water. So the intent of the exercise is that if you were in school and you had a science lab that you were working with, you could measure the pH of the water. You could use different materials to create the unclean water. You could use activated carbon filters. These are not things that students are going to have at home, and that's okay. Because again, we're looking to kind of just introduce this concept of filtration at all, outside of a lab where you don't necessarily have everything you need. So the video introduction to this activity mentions measuring the pH, mentions using these different kind of higher level materials. In practice, for students who are running around their house and grabbing what they have, some of them didn't have access to dirt, so we used coffee grounds. It was successful in the context of being able to filter out the coffee grounds, but you still ended up with brown water, which is unfortunate. This particular student used a sock. I don't know that water engineers would advocate for that. This particular student didn't have a water bottle, so they used a mesh filter and some paper towels, but you can see they had the dirt. So, you know, it's, you take them where they land. This next student, I thought this one was pretty good because he used iterations, and that's a big part of the process, and was exciting to see students kind of come up with these conclusions on their own. He used a cloth mask first. One, he found that the cloth mask absorbed a lot of the water, so that part wasn't very effective. But also the cloth mask on its own ended up with particles still going through it. And then when he added the coffee filters on top of a cloth mask, he came up with a solution that had much fewer particles in it. Filters are a big one right now, and masks are a good resource that students have at home. So that was a fun one to see what students came up with. So next on our list, we have civil engineering, or structural engineering. So I wanted to talk a little bit about structural engineering in the context of who's teaching these courses. The structural engineering video is, in my opinion, very well done. She spent a lot of time creating some really clear graphics on some really heavy topics. So in 13 minutes, Mary, who is at Cooper Union, goes through the concepts of load with different materials, what forces are loads, what is impacting structures. She talks about dead loads and live loads. She talks about natural loads from the earth, from the materials, from the buildings, from the air. And then she talks about how those loads transfer through structures. And we're only 4 minutes in right now. So just in context of high school students picking this up, this is likely the first time they've thought about what happens when they stand on a floor. If you are a technical teacher who is able to stop and talk about each of these concepts, that's great. I had 3 classes on structural loading as a mechanical engineer in college, and it was still very hard for me. So take it for what it is. if a student loves it, they'll want to learn more. And if a student doesn't get it, that's kind of okay too. There's a couple more years ahead. And if you're not being a structural engineer, I don't know how critical it is that you fully understand the concepts of tension and compression. But again, the graphics are great here. Hopefully there's some high level knowledge that comes through. And again, the college course, path work, and just different inspiration items to become a structural engineer are still part of the project presentation as well. In terms of the activities, these are kind of those fun hands-on ones that you miss out in person. You miss out that team opportunity to get together and build the tallest tower together. But the individual activity is meant to be virtual at home. You do need a pack of spaghetti and a packet of gumdrops. It's your classic spaghetti gumdrop tower with a little bit of a twist in that it's 2 stories. And for structural engineering, it's all about why it fails. So just again, getting students to think about what did they build, what worked, what didn't work, how can you make it better? In terms of scalability, you could spend days doing this, or you could spend a half an hour. It's up to you and the time you have. The group activity for structural engineering, again, if they have the materials at home, they could do it themselves. It's building a bridge out of index cards. Again, it's a nice opportunity to do these things as a group, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineering is another one where we're really just hoping to get students engaged in understanding the world around them. So the individual activity is one of my favorites, and maybe that's because I'm a mechanical engineer, but so be it, I'm biased. So the individual activity is an at-home scavenger hunt. We tried to be sensitive to the fact that not everybody is in the same type of home. So the scavenger hunt does account for that. Nothing is particularly geared towards one type of house or apartment or one type of system that's going to be running it, but it's just meant to have the students look around. And one thing that I wanted to bring up here is I know that I don't get students to turn on their cameras. I mean, kudos to the teachers who figured out how to do it. At ACE, I don't have much success, but collecting photos from students afterwards can be a great way to just understand if they are paying attention. And for this one, I highly recommend finding a way to kind of have an active photo source where they're sending it in and you're teaching at the same time. So for example, for heating, we can see here, you know, different spaces have different levels of control of their own temperature. So that's as a way to just kind of bring that concept front. Are you able to turn up and down the temperature, and are you able to measure the temperature in your own home? For overhead lighting, the photo on the left, you can't see the wire. The photo on the right, you can see the wire. So now you're just introducing the concept that there's something above that light where they might not have thought of that before, where in the picture on the right, there's nothing above the ceiling. And similarly, for students who had ductwork systems, one was in the floor, one was in the ceiling. Why did they make those decisions? What was going through the engineer's head when they decided to do different things? And just kind of opening their eyes to general concepts. Every toilet has a shutoff valve. Did a student know that? Probably not. Every house, every apartment has a circuit breaker somewhere. I mean, a board. Do they know where it is? I'm sure they can find it. So it's just something fun. A lot of students liked the fact that they didn't know everything that was around them. And as a teacher, a lot of this is very easy to Google. And then finally, we have construction management. And the the group exercise for MEP is really meant to be in person. It's an activity where you're working on coordination between different types of engineers, and you're passing a piece of paper within different groups. So that is one activity where it's really meant to be an in-person activity rather than doing it virtually at home. Finally, for construction management, it's an interesting one because there are definitely construction management majors, but a lot of people come into construction management through civil engineering, through mechanical engineering, or through architecture. So it's, again, when we talk about this iterative accumulation of these different majors that we're introducing, construction management comes at the end because the building's designed. We've heard about all of these different majors that you can do, and each of them say you can also go into construction management. So it's just another way to kind of show the progression through the design process, because construction comes last unless you involve construction earlier on, which is also discussed. But it's also kind of the culmination of all of the work that all of the different designers are doing. In the construction management resources, we've got some time-lapse videos, some construction site tours. We showed one of these time lapses at the beginning. I'm going to show another one now. This was a project to create a COVID facility in Stony Brook. And I think that, seeing these videos of nothing becoming something is something that's particularly inspiring in terms of sparking interest. The other things that you can do as you go through the different modules, depending on how much time you have, is use YouTube to show kind of some of these more exciting architectural or engineering feats that are happening all around, or failures for that matter. I mean, everybody in college sees the Gallipoli Bridge, but you might be the first person who gets to introduce it to your high school student. That's the one where the bridge goes into resonance with the wind and starts going up and down. I'm sure many of you have seen that video. So again, we have some of these resources within these folders, but definitely videos are a great supplement. And then just to kind of sum it all up, ACE is a great program because it involves professionals, and students really get to see what we do. But at the end of the day, it's really meant to spark an interest. We're never going to be able to teach our entire profession within the amount of ACE sessions we have, or for you guys, I'm sure you know this already in preaching to the choir, but within the amount of class time you have. So we created the chart to understand the different timeframes that are associated with each of these resources. We would recommend prioritizing the introductory video and the independent activity. If you did just those two things, we think that would be sufficient to spark some sort of interest. And if that's all the time you have, that would be my recommendation on how to use those. But if you have the time to go through all of the resources that are available, it can definitely, there are things in each of those resources that could definitely be the thing that sparks a student's interest. So making it local, making sure that the students are looking around and seeing this industry in their world, that's our goal. And if they like it, they should continue on to ACE. ACE's mission is to engage, excite, and enlighten high school students to pursue careers in architecture, engineering, and construction through mentoring and to support their continued advancement in the industry. That's what we're here to do. These modules definitely introduce our world, but definitely miss that professional mentoring component. And if a student thinks that they have any interest in that or want to rule it out, this is definitely the program for them. And I know Lee said that some parts of the virtual ACE world have become a little easier, and I definitely feel that the commuting is hard on students, and the virtual world definitely allows that virtual connection much easier without having to leave their home. But hopefully we will be back in person and they can see our offices, they can see our desks, however messy they are, and they stick with us. So Lauren's going to tell you a little bit more about how to get involved.
Yes, really quick. Thank you all so much for staying with us and listening to our presentation. So like Trisha said, this is just to spark their interest, right? To see if they're into it and they want to learn more about it. They want to talk to a professional in this field. And that's where ACE comes in. I preach another choir. We know we talk to you all a lot during these meetings and throughout the year. We're a full year mentorship program that's completely free. All students are accepted into ACE. No one gets turned away. We don't look at their grades. We don't look at essays or recommendations or anything. Everyone gets accepted. They just pick a team that they want to join. This year we had 44 teams meeting remotely, and teams consist of 20 to 25 high school students and 10 to 15 professional mentors. And so ACE is just a way to expand on this introduction that they had in class and to meet career professionals, go to their offices, see what the company, see what this industry culture is like, and see if it is a good fit for them. And they also get to go into construction site visits, which the students always say is like the highlight of the entire year. It is so fun for them to put the hard hats on, their vests, and go see what the mentors are working on. ACE also, for seniors who are about to embark on a college journey into this field, we also provide college scholarships. We provide an internship program for our college alumni who are pursuing this field, as well as doing professional development workshops on things like LinkedIn, how to write a resume, interview skills, as well as info sessions with all of our college partners for students, specifically for ACE. This year, we were also approved to count toward CTE students as WBL hours. So if the students attend all the sessions, they can expect to receive 30 hours per program year. And we keep track of the attendance and share it with the coordinators at the end of each month. We will. Next. We are in the halfway point of our program, or we're going to end in June 2021 with our final presentations. If you are interested in signing up your students, our program will again open for fall. The application will open in the summer, usually around June or July, and we'll kick off hopefully in person in fall 2021. But if not, we are ready to adhere to any COVID guidelines and work together to just get the students involved in the program. Next. If you would like to be our main contact for your school for ACE, please send me an email. It is the easiest way to get in touch with us, just so we have your contact info, and you'll hear the first news about our program when we're opening, any scholarships, any summer opportunities, etc. So please just send me an email and I will add you to our list. Final slide. And the last part is important for tracking. So if you do use these resources, there is a pop-up on our website. Please complete it just so we can know how many students are using it at your school, what their grade levels are. We will follow up with you to continue to improve this resource library and see how else we can step in and help out our teachers and school contacts. So please fill that out once you get that pop-up. And that is our presentation. Thank you all so much.
Fantastic. Thank you, ladies. Really, really appreciate it.